Madam Speaker, for this opportunity. Madam Speaker, I want to start by saying that I do not think that this government is serious. This government and the preceding governments when it comes to matters agriculture. Because agriculture sector supports livelihood of approximately 25% of Kenyan population. And particularly the sugar industry plays a very significant role and contributing to about 15% of agriculture GDP. Madam Speaker, I say so because I belong to Agriculture Committee. This morning we were discussing budget policy statement for 2015-2016. And Madam Speaker, you realize that the agriculture sector, the allocation is 2.6% of the total government allocation. Yet the sector contributes directly to about 25% of national GDP. So really, we are really not being very serious when it comes to matters agriculture. Coming to sugar, Madam Speaker, the sugar sector is on the verge of collapse. And unless serious steps are taken, I think we would find ourselves really losing quite a lot in this respect, because the sector supports about 6 million Kenyans in terms of dependency in their livelihood. It also employs close to 300,000 Kenyans. So the collapse of sugar industry would kill one particular region in this country. Madam Speaker, we have had COMESA safeguard from the year 2004 up to this year. 2004, we had some safeguard, some window for the government to be able to make and put in place reforms. 2008, the same. 2013, the same. And this time round, the same. Why have we been having these COMESA safeguards? The reason is simple. For the government to be able to come up with comprehensive reforms to be able to make the sector competitive. And some of the issues that they were supposed to address have not been addressed. One of them is to really look at the cost of production. The cost of producing sugar in this country is double the cost of producing sugar in the region, which does not really make us competitive. If you look at the factories, some of these factories are operating between 55% to 65% of their capacity, which means that they are underproducing. The factories have machines which are archaic, outdated machines, so issues of technology and modernization of the factories needs to be looked at. The competitiveness of the product sugar is an issue, and corporate governance have been a very big issue in this particular sector. Efficiency and productivity. These are some of the raft of issues that were meant to be addressed by the government, and these have not been done. So when we talk about privatization, it's like if you look at some of those factories that we want to privatize, it's like taking a sick cow to the market to sell. They will go at throwaway prices, and that way the farmers will stand to lose quite a bit. Madam Speaker, privatization is the way to go. And I would strongly support privatization because the world is heading there. The government should not be in business, and more so, the business of production. The government should be in the business of serving citizens, not in the business of manufacturing and competing with the private sector. So privatization is the way to go. However, privatization may not be a panacea to the problems that the sector has been facing. There's a lot more that we really need to look at to be able to ensure that when we privatize, these factories are going to survive and be able to be profitable. Madam Speaker, if you look at success cases, we don't have success cases to learn from. Mumias is a very bad case to look at if we were to really go by cases to learn from. KCC is another case. You remember the time the government was taking over KCC, the value of KCC was 5 billion shillings. And the government of Kenya bought it for a meager 500 million. And now we are shifting back to sell KCC back to the farmers. So as we are considering privatizing the 5 state-owned sugar factories, we really need to do it in a manner that will involve the farmers, the outgrowers, so that it becomes participative, the process becomes all-inclusive, so that all the key stakeholders should be involved. We are aware, Madam Speaker, that agriculture is a devolved sector. And since agriculture is devolved, as we are considering selling some of these factories, there is need to involve the county governments. They may not be having the capacity, but there is need to ultimately make sure that they also participate in the process of consultation and the process of coming up with a formula to sell off these sugar factories. Madam Speaker, as we are considering selling the 5 state corporations that are in this sector, we need to look at what kind of assets we want to dispose. And there are 2 aspects to this. We have the fields and we have the factories. The fields, that is the land. Considering a factory like Sony, Madam Speaker, where more or less 60% of the farmers that take their sugar to Sony come from my constituency, the land is seriously undervalued. If you look at what we have here from the report, the land is seriously undervalued, even the factory itself. And that is one sugar factory that is performing. That is the only factory that is profitable, Madam Speaker. So as we are considering the process of privatization, this thing needs to be done sequentially. It needs to be done with an arrangement such that we give it time so that we involve public hearings, we can have conferences, we can have written submissions from the key stakeholders. Madam Speaker, the other issue that we need to deal with is corporate governance. Because as you privatize, you can consider privatizing in 2 areas. You can privatize the management of an enterprise and leave the assets intact the way they are. If management is the problem, we can consider that. There's concessioneering, which has also succeeded in other areas, like Brazil. So all these need to be put into account as we consider the process of privatization. So there is need to really have shareholding negotiation so that we look at the ratios that they are proposing here. For example, if 49% is supposed to remain with the national government, this can be converted into trust land so that we only sell the factories. And you know, the whole area might eventually become an industry. The factory itself can run the way it is. And the whole area might, at the end, become an industry so that we diversify, so that ultimately we have other products that will be coming from the input, the raw material, sugarcane. There are so many things we can do. We can produce electricity. We can use the baggers to be able to produce other products. With those few remarks, Madam Speaker, I support this process, but it must be given time, and it must be all-inclusive. We should all participate, the outgrowers, the farmers, the employees, the county government, all should come together so that we sit and negotiate the process afresh. Thank you, Madam Speaker.